Aloha, Steve Tobis here, and this video is about parawinging in the waves. In the last week, we've had some pretty epic conditions. The waves have been up, the wind has been blowing, we've had really strong wind, and I finally got a chance to get the parawing in some solid waves and see how does it work. When I first got the parawing, it was middle of the summer. We didn't have a whole lot of waves hitting, so I was mostly downwinding. And that was really fun, but I kind of hit a point where the novelty wore off and I kind of went back to paddling. Now we have waves, and the whole thing was, can the parawing either replace or supplement wing foiling, kite foiling? It's been an epic week. I've had a ton of fun. Where I'm at with it is it's absolutely a different discipline to do in the waves. It's a really unique feeling being able to ride out, tow yourself all the way to the top of the lineup right at the peak, turn on a wave, tuck the parawing away, and then now you're just surfing the wave. You know, you're cruising. It's just you and the wave. I can go up into the wind, I can go downwind. Like, it's a really cool feeling, and I'm riding the wave almost exactly how I would if I was subfoiling or prone foiling into the wave. Now, don't get me wrong, to learn this, I absolutely went through it. I spent a ton of time just getting worked, going through whitewater, getting pounded. I've put my parawing through a durability test. I've put my board, my body, like, I've gone through it trying to learn this sport. So if you think you're just going to go out and throw the wing up and go get waves and rip, maybe you will, but just be emotionally prepared that it's something new you got to learn. You got to start back at zero and learn the skills and develop the technique to be able to ride the waves. Now, I personally had a ton of fun learning that. And now I've kind of hit a point where it started to click and little things started to get dialed, where I was spending less time trying to figure out how to get the power out of the wing and get everything to do what I wanted it to do. And I was having more time just reading the water, picking my waves, and getting some really nice rides. Our spot here in Maui is really epic, where if you go all the way to the outside, you can get a big overhead wave and ride it all the way to the beach. And that ride is like almost a mile long. So that's pretty special. But even in days where it's been really small, you know, just little 2-foot knee-high foiling waves, I've had a ton of fun on the parawing. Whereas with riding that with a inflatable wing, I probably would have just went and downwinded. The parawing absolutely is a tool to ride waves. I'm having a ton of fun doing it. And once I got my technique and skills up to a point where I could efficiently leverage everything, I was starting to push my progression a little bit. I was starting to try to ride further out. You know, my first couple of days, I was sitting on the inside, just riding the reform, not really getting into anything too big. And after a couple of days, I was starting to get a little more confident and push myself to go ride further out. I do still think there is a point in wave size and conditions where the normal inflatable wing does kind of hold the advantage. I find that I have a little more maneuverability with the inflatable wing. I can power myself out. I can jump over whitewater if I'm, you know, a little deep and I'm going to get closed out. It's a lot quicker and easier, and for me, more consistent, where I can just power up that wing and pull myself in front of the wave and get myself out of trouble. When I'm redeploying and throwing out the wing, most of the time I get it to come up the correct way and I can just throw it out and ride away. But there's still that, you know, 15-20% of the time where it's coming out twisted or backwards, and it's not inflating the way I want it to get me to keep going in the way I'm going. So I think when the waves are big and there's, you know, some consequence behind them, I'm still leaning towards the traditional inflatable wing. So I think as I put more time in on the parawing and I kind of develop my skill set a little further, that could change. But right now, in my progression and kind of in my skill development, that's where I'm at. I am running the new bridle adjustment. So if you haven't seen that, Greg put out a video on their Vimeo page about how you can adjust the bridle lines. And this basically moves a couple of the bridle lines and it eliminates one of the leaders on each side. And what that does is it gives you a lot more input with your bar. So it's kind of a pro and con. It's a double-edged sword. By changing the bridles, it lets the parawing push a little further forward in the window. So what I found is that gives me much better upwind performance. And I also have a lot more sheeting. As I sheet the bar out, it kills a lot of the power in the wing. What this does is it gives me better upwind performance and better range. And that's really what I need for riding waves. With the stock configuration, as soon as I get up on foil, I'm just super overpowered. I'm kind of getting yarded a lot. When I switched to the new bridle configuration, all of a sudden I had this D-power, I had this range, and I had this upwind performance that I was kind of lacking off of the stock configuration. This is a double-edged sword though. So what it also does is it gives you more input into the wing. And that lets you oversheet it or overstall it. It does kind of take away a little bit of the set it and forget it feeling that the stock configuration has. So if you're a new rider, it's your first few sessions on the parawing, I think stay with the stock configuration. that's going to give you the most power, the easiest performance. It's just going to be you kind of throw it out there and hold on to it, and it's going to pull you around. After a few sessions and you feel like, you want to push your up in performance, you want to give up some of that top end to gain range, then you could look at doing the reconfiguration of the bridles. It's really easy to do. If you can tie your shoes, you can adjust this bridle. You just follow along the video. It's step by step. Plan to spend, 20, 30 minutes doing it, but it's really not that hard. It's gonna open up a whole new range in the Parawing. Personally, after doing the bridle adjustment, there's no way I could go back to riding the stock configuration. I just found I gained too much versatility and too much performance out of it. So yeah, that's kind of how things are going. I'm still super fired up on it. I've been spending a lot of time on the Parawing trying to learn how to make it efficient in the waves. And I just recently hit the point where I figured out the efficiency. I've kind of figured out some of the technique on how I'm stowing the wing, how I'm holding it while I'm riding the wave, what I'm doing to redeploy it to get it to come out the way I want it to. And I've had the last few sessions where everything kind of came together and clicked. So it was really fun. It's kind of interesting. Every wind sport in the waves kind of has this root feeling of being able to ride waves without having to paddle. Windsurfing, kite surfing, wing foiling, a core component is being able to use the wind power to pull yourself into waves and ride that wave. And the Parawing definitely does that, but on kind of a different level than everything else does. It's a really unique feeling having this wind device where you're pulling yourself around, and then all of a sudden you stow it away and it's like you're holding a grocery sack in your hand, and then you're riding the wave and you're doing everything you want to do without the limitation of the wind direction. I'm a goofy footer. With the inflatable wing and going right, it's kind of in my way, and I'm like looking around it trying to see where my wave is happening, or going left up into the wind where I have this big wing pulling me back and slowing me down, and it makes it hard to punch up into the wind. Now with the Parawing, you're just holding this little ball of fabric that's not really doing anything. So I can go right and I have full visibility just like I'm surfing, or I can go left and I'm not having this big drag feeling where it's slowing me down. So it's a really cool, unique feeling, something that I haven't really felt with any other discipline of wind sport before. If you're trying to figure it out, trying to learn, but you're still not quite there yet, I would say just stick with it, keep practicing. It took me a while to be able to get it figured out. You just got to persevere and grind through. But once you get it, it's a really cool feeling. I'm super stoked on it. So yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Aloha.